Hey, and welcome to Mrs. K's way of finding rates by division. We're going to talk about three things in this video. The first thing we're going to talk about is finding equivalent rates. Then we're going to be finding unit rates by using division. And last but not least, we're going to be looking at unit rates, but when there are decimal answers, which we haven't really been dealing with too much in class yet. So for our first example, when flying to Minnesota, Mrs. K went 264 nautical knots in 6 hours. Nautical knots are a way to be able to find the speed of when an airplane's going. So if we wrote this as a rate, we would have 264 knots over 6 hours. Now, if we want to try to find an equivalent rate, we want to try to find what maybe the different types of speeds the plane was going in a different amount of hours. So let's say we wanted to see how fast it was going, or what half of the speed of the plane would be. So what we could do is, if we want to try to find what half of it is, we can divide both our nautical knots by 2 and also our hours by 2. By doing this, we're cutting both our nautical knots by 2 and the hours by 2, and we will result in a new rate of 132 nautical knots in 3 hours. So it's still the same speed of the plane, but just a different amount of time, and that's half of the time. Now we can redo that problem, and instead of dividing by 2, we can also divide it by another number. So if we look at the same problem right here, we have this 264 nautical knots over 6 hours. What if we decided to divide it by 3? So we can see what a third of the speed would be. So what we would do is 264 divided by 3 and 6 divided by 3. That would result in 264 divided by 3 gets us 88 knots, and 6 divided by 3 will give us 2 knots. So both 132 knots in 3 hours and 88 knots in 2 hours happens to be equivalent rates for our original speed and time. Now, we want to remind ourselves that sometimes we're going to be finding a unit rate. And that's when we're going to be taking our original rate and we want to try to get a denominator of 1. So for unit rates, we want a denominator of 1, which we already learned about previously. Now, if we are to see right here in our example, 325 miles per 5 hours, we want to try to get it to how many different miles there are in 1 hour. So in order to be able to determine how to get from 5 hours to 1 hour, we want to try to find what number 5 is divisible by to get us an answer of 1. So 5 divided by what number will equal 1. And we happen to know that any number divided by itself, or by 5 divided by 5, will result in an answer of 1. So in this example, that means that we want to divide both our hours by 5 to equal 1 hour. So we're also going to divide our miles by 5 to get our final answer, which 325 divided by 5 will get us 65 miles. So our original rate was 325 miles in 5 hours, but our actual speed is 65 miles in 1 hour. For our last example, we're going to talk about when we might get a decimal answer for our unit rate. So if we look here, we got $1 got us 2 cookies. But if we wanted to know what each cookie costs, we want to try to find the unit rate of 1 cookie. So if we write that out, we would know that we want to be able to try to equal 1 cookie. So we need to be able to get from 2 cookies to 1 cookie, and the way we can do that is by dividing the 2 cookies by 2. We're also going to do the same for the dollar. Now, if we have $1 and we're going to divide it in half, we know that $1, if you split it up into quarters, half of a dollar would be 50 cents. So even though we have a unit rate with a decimal, that's okay, because all that says is that each 1 cookie costs half of a dollar, or 50 cents. So it's okay sometimes to have a decimal answer in our unit rates. Hey you guys, so I know usually I have a Callie video or picture at the end of all my videos, but today, since I'm spending some time with my very special niece Piper, I thought you'd want to see her. So here's my sweet little thing, Piper. So say hello to my little niece, and I will see you guys when I get back on Monday.